Okay, our next panel. We're honored to welcome Duke Austin, CEO of Quanta Services, and a panel of energy industry professionals for a forward-looking discussion on the future of energy sector and the essential role veterans play in strengthening the workforce. This session will examine emerging industry challenges and opportunities, along with proven strategies for recruiting, training, and advancing veteran talent. Help me thank these folks and Duke and team for supporting this panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you guys doing this afternoon now? Keep you awake? Okay, that wasn't loud enough. So here's where I'm going to need some help. Our panel is a really neat panel, great opportunity to bring back to our individual companies. But one of the biggest things we want to talk about is there is some version of connection. You might be wondering, well, why do I care about this panel? I'm not HR. I'm not the transition officer. You have a connection. Every one of us in here makes a connection, and it doesn't have to be a veteran connection. So I'm going to do a challenge here. I'm going to find a way to get everyone in this room. Okay, I'll go 90% because some of you are just crazy. I'm going to get 90% of you to stand up here really quick. First question, please stand up if you have ever played football. Please stand up. Well, crap, y'all did it on the first question. All right, we're going to keep going here. I noticed the whole panel went up on my side. I like this. Second, if you are not standing yet and you have a favorite college football team, please stand up. Next, if you have a favorite pro football team, please stand up. You stay up. I mean, that must have been a Marine who sat back down again. I can't help them. All right, last question. If you've ever made fun of someone because they're a Dallas Cowboys fan, please stand up. Look around the room. Every one of you who has nothing, this has nothing to do with veterans, nothing to do with the fact that we're in DC, nothing to do with energy. We all found a quick connection through something completely different. That's what part of this panel is going to be about, is every one of us has a quick way to find a connection in some way. So go ahead and sit down, but congratulations, you're not a Dallas Cowboys fan. You know, I'm just going to start this off. I've been doing this for 10 years. They keep giving me the mic every time, and I'm just going to say it. Go Navy, beat Army. Just get that out of the way. Oh, you can boo all you want. You still lost 17-16. All right, so I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves today. This great panel about boots and bringing troops into our brand, bringing into our companies and the transitions we do. So I'd like to introduce Duke. He's the CEO of Quanta. I'll let you give a little background on yourself.
Yeah. So Duke Austin. Maybe this mic's working or not. I don't know.
Can you guys hear us?
Let's try this. Okay. Duke Austin. All right, sorry. They didn't teach me this. Duke Austin, CEO of Quanta, fourth generation in the business. We have 70,000 employees, primarily in North America. Do a lot with veterans. About probably 30% of our leadership is veterans, and so really important for me to be here. Thank you. It's an honor, and I don't take it lightly. So for me, I think for us, it's how do I think about our industry that we serve, multiple industries that we serve globally, and how do we advance our capabilities along with the veterans coming to us? What can we do? How do we do that where both parties, move forward? And so that's really what I'm doing here. My children are in the business. I have 4 children. So just super happy to have them in the business as well. So look, trying to perpetuate what we're trying to accomplish through hiring veterans and doing a lot of different things, but primarily around craft skill labor.
Thank you. Donnie Farmer. I am the veteran advisor for the Lazy Q Line School. If you don't know about that, it's a 16-week pre-apprenticeship program that Quanta puts on. We take selected veterans and put them through a 16-week pre-apprenticeship that has been built off the curriculum of the IBW, NECA, and the ETA. So all of our graduates get, for the most part, direct entry or direct interview into the JTCs. My job, I handle the recruitment and selection and job placement for about 120 veterans every year. And yeah, I'm a graduate of the Lazy Q Line School. Spent 18 years in the Marine Corps as an infantryman, went to Iraq and Afghanistan, found myself in the line trade about 3 years ago, and now I'm here.
Hi, my name is Josh Luck. In Quanta, we have an overall people strategy, and my role inside of that overall people strategy for the 70+ thousand employees that we have and the 10,000 we're adding every year, my role is on the craft side. So everything from how do we recruit, develop, train, lead, and retain that craft side of the house that we're so focused on right now. My background, 20 years in the Marine Corps. I was a AVP Harrier pilot. I had the privilege of commanding a Harrier squadron in North Carolina, deploying in combat, and I finished up my career with Special Operations Command in the fourth generation side of things.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amber Fogarty, Training Programs Manager for Consumers Energy in Michigan. My day job really entails all things training programs in our Learning and Development Department. Specifically to veterans, though, I'm the co-chair of our ERG, our Veterans Advisory Panel, along with all the really cool people out there in those green shirts that you see. Consumers Energy, stand up, be recognized. We're really proud of the things our company does for veterans. We have the Skill Bridge program. We have many DOL registered apprenticeships. Lots of great stuff going on with veterans at our company, and we are well above the national average in terms of how many veterans we hire.
All right, now that you know our team up here, I want to kind of go, Duke, you get the first one right out of the gate here. You have an advantage, kind of sitting in the C-suite, that we don't all have here in our world. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges facing the energy industry right now, and how should leaders and emerging leaders, which many of us are in this room, prioritize those challenges over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, look, I come from the field. I grew up in my hands. And so that allows me to have a different perspective, I believe. I made my sons do the same thing. Go to the field, learn from the bottom, get dirty, gritty. And then it gives me a perspective here. And really, when we think through it, there is demand. The hiring that we need to hire 6,000 this year. We hired 11,100 last year. So we added 11,100 people last year. I pinched myself and just say, how do we do that? We do it because it's purposeful. We have been hiring craft for, I don't know, my whole life. That's where I came from. But purposefully, we built campuses. We did things that I believe will separate how we hire, how we train. And we spend about $200 million a year on training. And we don't just talk about it. That program, every person that goes through there, it costs us $53,000, know exactly what it costs. We pay them 6 days a week. We give them tools. We make them successful. And I think when I look at what we have to accomplish here, you cannot do that sitting around talking about it. You have to put programs in place. You have to lean into it. And we have a problem in this nation where we do not have enough craft. We don't. And, you know, I heard the panel before. I agree with some of it. I disagree with others. I mean, it's okay. That's why we're free, and thank you for that. That said, I do think, like, what you have in front of you is opportunity. But in between what you want and what we see, it's hard. Because there's a lot of change coming, too. I see AI really pressing both sides of this. We could reduce 25% of our jobs, like today, I believe. I mean, there's some social aspect to this that we see as well. So we have to train differently. We have to think differently. We're growing. We have to make sure that AI doesn't displace everyone in the country, including myself. It's something that we're building the very infrastructure that will enable that. And this group, the energy group, it's never been more of a unique time. I will deal with Amazon one day, Google the next, go down and talk to utility in between a generator. It's a unique place to be. And it's a great, great thing. And we don't talk enough about it as energy executives, and to say how great it is. Pensions, welfare, the great things that we do as companies. And I think we have to get down. I heard this before. When I think about our organization, we have a good strategy and we execute very well. What we don't do well is we don't do the handoffs. If you've ever seen a dance routine or a drill team line and one girl falls, number one, it's sad, feel sorry for them, but it looks like hell. And so to me, that transition that everyone has to stay in unison is what the problem is when I see how do we transition from where we're at today to go forward. This group, this room, how do we transition out of military into here? How do we get everyone successful? Because I think that's the key to this. Because the markets are there. We could employ double what we're at today, easy. So that's where we're at. And I do believe it'll take every single person in this room, every single person thinking differently about how we train, how we do some things. And, we challenge these teams to think different. Me too. I'm right in there with them. And we want to train differently, and we'll need to meet the demand of what we see over the next 2 decades.
Kind of leading right down that road again. And it's great to hear that we're hearing consistent message. It's craft. It's people. That's the hardest part, is getting the skill label in here. You guys have actually done some stuff with your company with the Lazy Q Ranch in the Northwest Lyman College. Can you guys talk a little bit about that? Your team a little bit, talk about how, it's one thing for you guys to do it. It's a repeatable idea. I would love for everyone to hear. And again, the whole part of why we're here is let's benchmark, let's learn, and how we can do this across the industry to bring more folks in, and especially veterans.
I'll tell you why we did it. They can tell you what we're doing. The why, because I looked around in 2009, I was running operations, and I was, 15 years younger than I am now. I felt young, 41. I feel old now, dog years. That said, we weren't doing anything but relying on the unions and trade associations to train, and we continue to say, hey, we're all we are is craft skill. That's who we are. We were doing nothing. We were doing nothing as a company. We had no symbolic way to say, hey, we're training. We're going to be the very best in the world at what we do. That's why we built the ranch and the training facility. It's kind of a weird, lazy Q, and it's just a training facility. Look, our founder did that. But what I would say is, in general, what goes on there was something that I thought was great. The second piece of that is, what wasn't happening is we didn't understand how to train. Your training apprenticeship, everything that we do is normally between 50 and 70 years old, by the way. I know this. We own the publishing company. We own the publishing company because the union pissed me off, and I couldn't get the curriculum, and they forgot that the publishing company owned the curriculum, so we own the curriculum, and you can have it free. Josh will give it to you. Because it's wrong, I thought is we want to train everyone. We want to help the industry. This is an industry issue. It doesn't matter where you go to work. If you come through us, I don't care. We are going to get the industry better. And saying that, we weren't getting to the mine. Then we bought a college at NLC. It's accredited. Aaron told me he could have a football team. That sold me. Well, we can get that going later. So I do think how the human brain works is different, and how the training was being done was different. Pre-apprenticeship mainly to get people in the trade. It was one of those things that I thought, look, you're out there getting the hell beat out of you if you're an apprentice coming into this trade. And why would they do that? I mean, that's just my dad was tough, but I had to eat. Like, it was just, that's what you did. Kids now, they don't think that way. You got to get in their brain. You got to think different. We got to think different as an industry, and that's why we bought NLC, was to get that academia part of training into our curriculum. So I think, number one, we invested. Number two, we had to invest properly and train properly, which we've taken that much further, and I'll let the guys talk about it.
Just a little bit more on my background. I was actually part of Northwest Lineman College in 2018 when we were acquired. I was the COO of the company before coming over to Quanta about a year later. And when that happened, one of the most exciting things for us, of course, as Northwest Lineman College, but I think a lot of people were scratching their heads and said, what is Duke doing? You know, well, why is he buying a trade school? Well, at the time, we had 4 campuses across the United States. We were producing about 2,000 entry-level apprentices into the trade. But I think more importantly, I'm not going to speak for Duke, but the way I think he saw it and the way I saw it was he really created a center of excellence inside the industry and inside of Quanta that no one had. It was, I mean, it wasn't just about, you know, the amount of apprentices we could graduate out of our pre-apprenticeship program. Surely that was part of it, but it was the culture. It was the ability to create curriculum, world-class curriculum, by the way, and start pushing the standards, start pushing the industry to go to a different place when it came to training and the quality of training. It was about the instructors. You know, we call them Maroons. Our instructors are world-class. We have a whole training program just for the instructors to make sure that they can do what they need to do and deliver the curriculum at the highest levels. So it was really what it was a catalyst and a nucleus for the Center of Excellence for Training and Education that Quanta now has. And it took us a while to figure out how it all would come together with a construction, at the time, construction, now energy solutions provider. How did it all come together and how we work in tandem together. And we got it figured out now. And it's going to be pretty powerful, even more powerful than it was when we first started this thing in 2018. So again, I think the vision was pretty far out there. And what it's done is it's really not only pushed our organization, but also pushed the industry to go to a different place when it comes to training and education.
All right, so I've got a question. You guys kind of both mentioned here. You bought a college. You might have mentioned you wanted a football team that came with a college, right? Is there a bit of a connection between football on this stage that we might want to have a conversation about?
Hey, Duke, I just want to say I apologize. We were talking about this last night when she mentioned the whole football, make people stand up kind of thing. I said, hey, you know what? Somehow I remember this from 2018 during the acquisition, I think it was. It turns out Duke and I are, I think, about the same age. And I went to Boise State University, and I played football there. And he went to Sam Houston State. And so the very first year, in 1988, they came out to the Blue and played at Boise State. Sam Houston State did. And anyway, so I had to mention that, and then here we are. So
Yeah, blue turf. We had to run the geese off the turf.
yeah, and
We won't talk about who won or when we could.
all I can tell you is we're at a much higher elevation there than Texas, and I think it got to them in the fourth quarter.
So keeping it going here, and I appreciate that. Like I said, it's the little connections you don't think about that. So you can have that connection with somebody that you talk to, and now you got a little trust, a little bit more. They want to listen to you. Have more than just "Hi, my name is." And this football was such an easy one last night. We were talking about. I want to go into kind of leveraging military and energy domain parallels. And Amber, I want to kind of get your opinion on this one, and I want to kind of bring it back into Quanta. Is across the military communities, what specific cultural technical parallels do your companies leverage to increase workforce readiness, particularly in crews, coordination, maintenance disciplines, and any of the safety culture that you do?
So I wanna start by just saying we do things a little bit differently when it comes to like our lineman training. One of the things we've done to help increase some of that cultural stuff is partner with our community colleges in our communities, especially in those more diverse communities, to bring those lineman training programs to light and help them with the foundational skills for the incoming line workers. We do all the technical training for the most part, but getting them that foundational knowledge, not just book experience and electrical knowledge, but also those workplace readiness skills that he mentioned that some of this younger generation might be not as well equipped for. So that's part of it. On the gas side of our house, we do something specifically for veterans called a Veterans Boot Camp program. We've hired since 2016, going on 250 veterans through our gas boot camp program, specifically veterans that are coming in the door that way. So I don't know that totally answered your question, but those are two really good examples of things that we've done to kind of help bridge those gaps.
Do you guys, Josh or Donnie, you have a comment on, kind of how we leverage that military community back here to the parallels and how you guys increase your workforce readiness?
Yeah, part of my job, well, most of my job is the selection of the candidates that attend our program, and a big part of that is looking at their resume and looking at their DD-214 and being able to translate those skills that are on the DD-214 off of what they put on the resume, because with most of us, myself included, if I were to write a professional resume before I took this job, it would say that I can clear rooms and throw hand grenades and stuff like that, but if I had, somebody that could look at my actual experience, I've got a lot of logistical experience, a lot of personal management, a lot of time management skills that most veterans don't realize that they have, because during your time in the service, it's kind of, you get on the assembly line and you do what you're told. They don't really get a chance to take a step back and look at the big picture of what they've accomplished and what it took for them to get there. So a big part is just kind of referencing those two things and knowing what to look for as well.
And I like that, because this is the more we get into this, the more opportunities that you guys provide these long-term training programs. And with the growth, like you said, we've said before, it's not just veterans. Once you teach one, you can teach everyone. But the veterans have that great opportunity to come in. It's very process-oriented, like we're used to. Very much like, where's our PQS books? Where's our training books? And what you guys bring to the table helps us so much. And I want to actually kind of refer back to what Colonel Gadsden said. He said, we can't hold others accountable unless we hold ourselves accountable. And Duke, for you, Quanta, you show this. What is Quanta doing right now for approaching veterans and specialized training, that you see how it impacts in the workforce? You're already holding your teams accountable. You're already holding your leadership accountable. How have you seen this training, like you've done with Lazy Q and you've done with the college? How has that changed the workforce for you in your company over the last 5 to 10 years?
I mean, it's a two-way street. I think, we have to provide the opportunity. We have to provide the training. And I go back to my dad. When kids would come in, they would come into the apprentice programs, and the failure rate was like 65%, something like that. They would all quit. And he would say, they're just dumb, your generation's dumb, lazy, don't know shit, just nothing. And I would listen to him, and I'd go, well, it's going to be me and you when it's over with, but that's okay. So then I go back and I say, are they dumb or do we not train them? If I don't teach my kid how to change the oil, he's not going to know how to change the oil. And so then you revert back into your own self, and you have to look in that mirror every morning and say, am I doing enough? And I do think, somebody said it before, you can think you are, you can look behind you and nobody's there. And it's important that you look behind you and everyone sees your vision and sees what you're trying to accomplish. And I think for us, look, we know where we sit in the industry. We're humble about it. We try to be subservient. We want to help, not just ourselves, our competition, our clients, our stakeholders. Doesn't matter, because I believe that we need everyone, and we have to be inclusive in these industries that we serve. I mean, we were talking the other day. You climb a 100-foot pole. If you can't climb a 100-foot pole and sit up there in stability, then you're out, because there's no sense in trying to do something that you're scared of. I mean, if you can't climb, you can't climb. It's okay. What did we do for that person? Because he can go down and stay on the ground and be an inside electrician, same thing, make same money. Did we do it? Did we give that person that kind of opportunity? I can tell you we used to not do it, we're fixing to. And the good thing that I have the ability to, it's sort of like a dictatorship, unfortunately. We get to say, this is what we're doing, and then do it. We don't need a grant. We don't need the government. We have put ourselves in a position where we can make a difference on every single day for the right reasons. And I do think you have to be good. And if you just try to be good, good things happen to your companies, good things happen to yourselves. And that's part of it, to make sure that we're doing that as a company, and then trying to make the industry a better place and somewhere everyone wants to go to work every day. Because who wants to go to work at, somewhere you hate? Good God, like I couldn't do it. And we really try to make it fun and something that I believe, we are accountable to each other, and that's part of it. My job is to look in that mirror and say, am I doing enough every day?
Jen, just to add to that, I think, as a Gen Xer, we could sit around and blame this younger generation, and they don't have and they can't do all day long. What good is that going to do us? What good is that going to do us? How about we meet them where they're at and get to know them and understand how they think differently than us, because they do. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's different. But meet them where they're at, help them learn the way they learn, and it's astonishing what they might teach us in the interim.
And that's a perfect segue into kind of where we're going into is the training that we have to do, the new concepts we constantly have to bring to the table. Kind of, again, especially in a room full of veterans here, what military training concepts should we be expanding across the energy industry to strengthen our safety, predictability, and workforce procedures?
Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit. First of all, I kind of look at what works and what didn't work in the Marine Corps or in the military. What systems and programs that you were living for 20 years or however many years you were there, which ones worked? And the way I've approached my job, and Duke gives me a lot of leeway to operate, as he does with everybody, but I start looking at things like, the model of Top Gun, for example, or MOTS 1, or Training Education Command of the Marine Corps. There's a center of excellence there. We have a very decentralized model, just like the Marine Corps does. You expect the individual units to do their training, but by the same token, there's a set of standards, and there's a strategy, and there's changing environments and stuff like that you can build systems and programs and training and education around that can help fit throughout all the organizations. So as I looked at how do we crack the nut with Quanta being so decentralized, and Duke does not mandate a lot. In fact, I've only heard it once or twice in 8 years I've been with Quanta. He expects the presidents of these companies to run their companies and keep their culture. However, there is, when you have a center of excellence, we'll call it like a training education command or something like that, Northwest Lineman College in our case, our organization, you're read into strategy. You understand where the industry is going. You understand where Quanta is going. You understand the acquisitions that are coming down the line, and where the gaps in training and systems and things like that may be able to be applied across the entire organization. So when I look at my military experience, that was a really easy one. It's not one size fits all, and you have to tweak on it, because what works for the Marine Corps and the time and the money and the things they have versus what we're doing in our world can be different. But that's one example of what I think works, and it works for a decentralized model of the size of Quanta. One other thing that we're doing inside of Quanta, I've used this analogy a few times, more than a few times over the last 5 years, and I think most of the folks in this room will relate to it. When I was the commanding officer of a Harrier squadron, I didn't have any training professionals. I didn't have any safety professionals in my organization. SEAL Team 6 doesn't drag, SEAL Team doesn't drag a safety or training professional around with them in their organization either. We rely on the schoolhouse, the center of excellence, to make sure we're getting trained, and then in the individual units they train. What happens every single day, though, when you fly a mission, or you're working on an aircraft, or you're with an infantry unit, whatever it happens to be, the people in your organization, in your unit, are mentoring and training you. And so training happens every day. It doesn't cost anything. You're going to be doing the work anyway. So we're flipping the script a little bit on the way we think. In the field, we want operational ownership of that training and that safety. It doesn't mean there's not a safety professional, a place for them, or for a training professional. There is. However, we're really trying to transition into that place where we're getting that effective training in the field every day by the people who know it best and who should be mentoring and leading the people in the field, make sure they're safe and productive.
Continuing on that one here, what I want to keep going is, what are some of the best practices you've seen for developing, motivating, and retaining the veterans you're bringing into these training programs? You've set up Lazy Q, you've set up the Lyman College, you now have these decentralized training facilities. You publish the rights, you got the publishing rights to have all the training. What are you doing to, again, to continue to motivate and get that out there and continue being successful in your organizations?
I mean, I think you got to show a path forward, and everybody's a little different. They want different things in life. So, you know, Josh is right on some of the operating models that you know, we're thinking through. Try to tell your safety department that we're no longer going to have a safety department. It's going to be part of an operating model, and that should be part of the operations team. That goes over well, trust me. So, like, yeah, like I do think, you know, how we think and you know, we got to give people and explain it, you know, very, very well about where you can go in this organization or any organization about here's your path. Because younger generations, they want to see path and they want to be challenged. And it's not about money sometimes. Our founder went to Vietnam, and, you know, when he came out, you know, the one thing that with him is that all he wasn't scared. That's all he knew. He just wasn't scared. Went to Vietnam. And so I think that's one thing. You can get in the business, but where you go is somewhat up to you. But we have to give those paths and treat people differently. When we built the Lazy Q, I'll give you a little story. I said, hey, we need a gym out here. He said, we don't need no gym. Everybody works too hard. They don't go to sleep. You know, we serve alcohol, like beer and wine, for like an hour. You know, that's it. It's over. And so, what are they going to do? And I don't, you know, so we put a little bitty gym in there. It's full every day. And he said, the next gym, and I said, you got to put a gym in there. And you got to give them something where they're talking at night, and, you know, because we know that helps. Train. So I come back, and we have a bigger gym than the Houston Texans. And he goes, I don't know anything about a gym. I just went down to the Texans and asked them what to build, and this is what we got. So now we have this huge gym out there, but it's full every day. And the kids that are coming through, the people that are coming through our organization today are different. They just are. They care about their health. They care about what they look like. They care more about, you know, other things in the past. And I mean, I love it. I think it's great. But are we going to embrace that, or are we going to keep pushing them down? I mean, I think that path upward is, you know, something that we have to show. And I heard the thing about PSD. I just want to get this in before I forget, because I think it's really important. We're doing a thing with Australia called MATES. They're out. It's called Mates in Construction. Write it down. We'll help you. They'll help you. I'll help you. It's very, very powerful. 5 to 6 times more people die of suicide in this workforce than in safety. 5 to 6 times. We don't talk about it. We're not doing a damn thing about it. We got mates over here from Australia. We had to commit. I don't know what we committed. I don't remember. It didn't matter. We committed to them. And they're in here, and they're talking all the time. And it's construction-led people that really, really help. And I commend them. I challenge everyone to, like, embrace that. It's not Quanta. We're just trying to bring it in. And I do think that's a real important part of this is we're asking people to go be away from their families a lot. It's not fair. And then how do we fix that gap? And you can do it through FaceTime, you can do it through a lot of ways, but the MATES program is really good, so I just wanted to make sure I got that out.
Can I, Duke, I just thought about another program that is kind of mirrored after the family readiness side of things with the military, and that's Power Family. Maybe you know more about it than I do, so.
Yeah, so I was on a storm, I don't remember when, North Carolina. It was a big family, like there's 10 family members on one crew. I went up to them. They left their families that morning of the storm, didn't know if their families were alive. Didn't know anything. Had no way to know. I was in 3 days, 2 days after, I guess. Still didn't know. We got satellite, got them their families. We made sure they were okay. And it bothered me. And so I thought about the military. Like when you leave the military, you go into on deployment, you make sure home's good. You have a network at home. And so where the wives or however you're supporting the families. Man, as an industry, we just don't do it. And so I felt like there was something Shane and I and all of us kind of got together and we called it Power Families. And we've sent packs out It has who they can talk to. It has gift certificate to food, Walmart. It has a bunch of different things for kids in it. And as soon as they go to storm, that goes. And it gets there next day. Well, unless it's in a storm place, and then it's a little harder. But I just think things like that are important. We're doing a lot of things. Look, we emulate a lot of things after the military. We really do. And look, I think the best form of flatterism is when someone copies you. It's awesome. So, like, we're copying for sure. So that's us.
Jen, I think just to, your question was all around retention, right? Keeping veterans once they're in the door. I think the statistic, and don't quote me on this, is like 57% of veterans coming out of the military leave the first job that they were given within the first year. Does that sound familiar? Something like that. That's staggering. And I think having, and I'm going to do a shameless plug for ERGs right here. If your company doesn't have a veteran-supported ERG, please come to tomorrow's committee meeting, because that sense of belonging, that sense of camaraderie, that family, finding that connection within your company right away, and I can speak to the individuals in this room, serving on the Veterans Advisory Panel for as long as I have, I consider some of those people like go-to individuals. If I am in a time of need, if I need anything, I know every single one of those people sitting out there has my back. And that sense of belonging is huge. It really is. And so I think in terms of retention, if you can help those new employees, especially our veteran employees, find their family, find their like-minded individuals, find their brothers and sisters, making that connection is half the battle.
Yeah, and Duke, I want to say thank you, because not many CEOs would have that conversation. It's not just about what happens on paper, what happens out in the field on the line. It's not what happens, show me the statistic. It's how they're feeling, making sure they're safe. Because at the end of the day, all of us have some version of a family, whether it's your kids, your wives, your brothers, your sisters, your dogs, your friends. You have something at home that drives you. And the fact that you guys know that and you're talking about it and you're making a difference, I would hope every company out there, again, I come from a really big company as well. We work with Quanta all the time. We work with Pike. We work with probably half the companies in here. I don't know that I've heard my CEO before talk about as much, and this is really important. I hope we all bring this back to our companies. What's your family doing? Are they okay every day when you go into work? Are they taken care of? And we talk about boots to suits. It's not just, when we deploy, it's not just us. It's our families that are back home that have to be taken care of. When we go to work every day, or there's a storm and you guys are out for 10, 15, 20, 30 days, your families are back home. So I love hearing that you guys are putting a priority on the folks back home, because if that part comes off the worry list, we have the opportunity to concentrate on really, really more important things. Or not more important. We haven't, concentrating on the things that are a little more dangerous maybe every day, and not have to worry about that back home. Kind of want to finish off on a couple, two last questions here, is going into, for the different military folks, for the folks that are military in the room, their training experience is maybe just be an MOS. Might just be, hey, I was a gunner, I was a medic, I was a signalman. How do they take that military transition and training, especially through the Quanta, the programs you guys have here, and bring that into areas like grid modernization, renewable, cybersecurity? How do you help them transition from what may seem like I shot guns to going into this 21st century world of our grid?
Yeah, well, like I said, we go over the resume, the DD-214. If you have the right person that can look at that and pull the things out of it that you're looking for, giving you an example, you got somebody that did 4 years in the Army, got out as an E4, and has 2 Army Achievement Medals, versus somebody that got out of the Marine Corps, E3, that had, maybe 1 Navy Achievement Medal. If you look into what jobs they were, let's say that E3, that Lance Corporal, was a data Marine, an IT guy working for a regimental level command, I can promise you that that individual probably has a lot more experience troubleshooting and thinking on his feet, logistics and managing personnel, than that E4 that might have been, a mechanic And, you know, no offense to the Army, but you guys kind of give away Army Achievement Medals pretty freely. The Marine Corps' a little bit more tighter on that. And so, you know, you look at something like that, and that's gonna be able to translate into what can this individual do for the corporation or the company later on down the road. You know, you might have an infantryman that's, you know, got a lot of combat experience, but let's say he was only a machine gunner the whole time, nothing against that, versus, this is gonna sound crazy, but a messman that spent, you know, 8 years, you know, working dining facilities overseas. I promise you that messman is gonna have a lot more attention to detail, typically than that machine gunner will, because he's, you know, had to think on his own without supervision more so than the other one. So it's not about, you know, just looking at, you know, well, what rank did he achieve? Did he get any medals, or did she go to any specific schools? But get into the weeds of, well, what did you learn during your time in service? And we ask very, very personal questions, you know, specifically like with the family issue as well. It's like we talk about, you want to get into a JTC. Well, what do you know about a JTC? What do you know about the 7,000 hours you're going to have to complete? And more importantly, what's your family going to be doing while you're executing this training curriculum? You know, we have them tell us, you know, what the plan is so that we can kind of gauge, well, how successful will this individual be going into the program? Because it's not, especially at the Lazy Q, it's not about just graduating from our program. It's about graduating from the apprenticeship, because we keep tabs on them until they get their journeyman ticket. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that.
I think yesterday I heard Tony Griston, the former sergeant major of the Army, had a really good quote. He said, don't let them put you in a box. But I think, and he said more importantly, and I agree with this, don't put yourself in a box. I look at the table over here at Quanta, and we have a multitude of really high-achieving, successful veterans sitting at that table. Shoot, I mean, last night we were having a conversation, and turns out Brian Fanning, who's over there, he was a CH-53 pilot. I was a Harrier pilot. Mike Goff, Toomer Goff, he's the president of Quanta, Puerto Rico. And we all deployed together right after 9/11 on the Bonhomme Richard. And in fact, he was right next door neighbor, and Mike Goff was my boss. They were both Harrier pilots, and he was a 53 pilot. Well, last night we're having dinner. Turns out Donnie was on the same ship on the Bonhomme Richard, deployed after 9/11 as an infantryman. And so I think the point is, I guess we probably need to be a little bit better. I don't mean Quanta in general, but I mean me and our leadership on the veteran side, on really connecting with the veterans that are coming into the organization and making sure we understand who's coming from where and how we can come together and make sure we're successful and that kind of thing. You know, the other thing I think we have to think a little differently on our entry-level programs. I don't think having a lineman program or this program or that program or that program is, I think you have to have something that exposes veterans to the different trades that are and opportunities that are available to them in a short 6-week program, something like that. And that's some of the stuff we're looking at the Quanta side of things. Okay, how do we attract more of the general population of the military who would be interested in the craft side of things, and expose them to everything, so they don't go into the line side of it and they realize after 8 weeks they don't want to climb. You know, that's fine. We can find something for them, but on the front end, why don't we give them an opportunity to explore different things hands-on for 5 or 6 weeks? Then we can start putting them in the right places inside of Quanta. So stuff like that I think would be very helpful as well. And I think the last piece is exposure, and I just don't think people know about what we do, and that's as an industry, and I think that's the biggest problem we face right now, is that connection between, hey, I'm getting out, they want a job somewhere, but just what's available to you. And so I think there's a big disconnect there. Been looking at this for years with Hiring Our Heroes and other things, and somehow, some way, we just keep going back down the same path when we're trying to get veterans. So I think we just need to be better about that.
Rosa Schmidt from the Center for Energy Workforce Development is set up next door. If you haven't had an opportunity to talk to her, if your company doesn't have somebody versed in translating military transcripts, we all know that's like a different language to HR departments in many cases, right? They have created something through their Troops to Energy jobs called a military translator tool. And anybody, all of you, you're free to use it. Go out there. Visit with Rosa, she'll get you the link. You can put any military occupation code in there and it'll spit out how that translates into civilian skills. It's pretty cool.
All right, we've got just a few minutes here left, and I want to just remind everyone, you guys remember earlier today, Commander Kelly talked about watch out for the icebergs. It's not what you see, it's what's out there much, much bigger. Duke, I'm going to put you on the spot on this last one here. What do you see, besides craft labor, are the big icebergs that we should be watching out as an industry, the energy industry, over the next few years that we can try and prepare ourselves for, and especially with the veterans in the room, that with, again, leaders and emerging leaders, what are those icebergs that are out there that you want us to watch and think about?
I think it's the social impacts of AI and on the workforce. I do. I'm watching it. We're in front of it in many ways because we're building it in 360 with a bunch of them. The impacts that will have on society is insurmountable. I kind of agree with Elon on a few things, and one of us which we weren't ready for it. And I don't think knowing what I see and what it can do, it will impact. And we're going to have to think differently as industries, and how military will be thinking different. You start making robots the way they're making them, and everything else that we have coming out. Don't put your head in the sand and think that that's not going to affect you. I mean, we have Shane, because we're going to put data centers in space, so Shane's going to lead that for Elon. Kidding. We didn't have that much foresight, but what I would say is, like, look, all this stuff, we're going to have to do it together and collaborate on it. And anytime you're trying to do something independently, I do think the workforce development, all the things that you can do as a group, and Quanta has to be in the group and not try to go off and do everything by themselves either. And that's what we get so siloed. I got this many people, and I'm this big, and I'm this and that. That's the iceberg. You're siloed in a box, and it's going to hit you, and you're not going to be able to pivot because you're not going to let yourself open up to what's out there. And so I think that's the key is, like, you know, we got a lot of technology, a lot of things pushing on all of us. We're building a lot of it, but it's also coming the other direction at us. You can't be more like these industries and the things that we're doing. You've got to do this and think through it together. And if we do it, the opportunities are endless.
Well, thank you, Duke. I appreciate you closing us off. You guys heard you heard it on the panel. You heard it from the CEO. Let's share what we know. Let's share the knowledge. Quanta's here, the entire team you've got here, and Amber's here with consumers. They have programs that are amazing when it comes to bringing in veterans, but not just veterans. Again, all of us here, we're not just only helping the veterans in our companies, we're helping our coworkers. So anything we can learn, anything we can benchmark, anything we can bring back to our companies, that's the whole goal of this organization is what can we learn that helps the veterans and then helps our companies when we leave here tomorrow. So I want to thank the panel. I want to thank Duke. I want to thank Duke for trying to he didn't know that he was matching me today, so I really appreciate that. Did very good there. But thank you guys all for today. Do we have any questions? All right, they came up in every direction here. Where you want to go first, right? I think I saw it right in the front here. See, Navy's helping the Navy here. We're getting it turned around quickly.
Just something I would, I guess, like to share for consideration as a veteran who retired from the Army in 2020 and transitioned into the civilian sector. One thing that I realize now being in the civilian sector that was not pressed upon me or was not really even introduced to me was the impact of core values alignment and core values misalignment. And an example that I could give to kind of highlight the impact of core values misalignment or even alignment is, you know, if you're a person of integrity, integrity is near and dear to your heart, as part of your DNA, as part of how you operate. When you go to work, if you feel like your leadership or the folks who are working to your left and right put you in a position to make decisions where you have to compromise that integrity for the sake of the profit or the sake of the mission, how long would you continue to work at that organization? Probably not long. Because at that point, it's not about how much you're getting paid. It's not about the job. It's not about the benefits. All those things may have been enough to get you in the door to accept a job offer. But when the smoke settles and now that situation arises, doesn't matter whether it's day one of you on the job or whether it's year 20 on the job, those core values are kind of like one's line in the sand, where you might ask someone to respectfully not cross or respectfully request that you not cross that line. But nonetheless, once that line is crossed, I think that's where we've all maybe been in a situation like that, where we say, you know what, I think this is where we part ways. So that's one of the things that I guess I hadn't really heard from any of the organizations today concerning how important those core values are and that core value alignment is to not only bringing someone onto the team, but also then maintaining them, retaining them on the team. So I guess my question to any of the panel is, how important do you see and how important do you feel core values alignment is to the retention of your team, and what steps are you taking to cultivate an environment where, even though we're all different, even though we think different, even though we have different beliefs, what efforts are you personally making to unify, have everybody unified at least at your company's core values or some kind of core values crossroad?
Yep. We'll let you guys, who wants to take this one first?
Yeah, I mean, it's for us, we say we're a family company. At 70,000 employees, you say you're a family company. Are you? Are we doing the things that we should be doing for a family? And I have to look in the mirror and go, are we? Unfortunately, I've got to go talk to a bunch of bankers in the morning, and we have an earnings call. We're public. There's nothing I can do about it. What I don't do is look at personal integrity over profitability. I think it goes hand in hand. Keep doing the right thing over and over again. There's a great book called The Go-Giver. I encourage everyone to read it. The more you give, the more you get back. And I've lived my life like that, and I think the company itself, it starts at the top, and you have to make sure that you're pushing that through these organizations. And profit's not everything. It's just not. It's not what drives people either. A bonus or how much you make, many people never look at it because they're happy doing what they're doing, and they know that the integrity is more important of where you're going. And I think that's something that we have to do as leaders, is continue that. And I tell all our people, it's simple. If you don't want it on the front page of the paper, don't do it. Whatever it is, just don't do it. And if you live like that, it comes with integrity, comes with everything. You live your life like that. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's human resources. It's the best one. It's easy. But I do think that integrity that you have, and coming out of the military, it does resonate with organizations that are moving fast and that want to go forward. And you're right. People will leave if you can't control it all. But when you hear about it, you've got to make it happen. You've got to cut it off, number one. And you've got to we have a thing called Quanta Elite. It's our best foreman. We just put it in because I want to hear them. If it comes to me, I want to hear it. I want to hear what they say. There's 8,000 something of foremen. I want to hear what they're saying. We have our very best. They're telling us, what makes them elite and what makes us good or bad. And what you hear there, our organizations don't like it because you hear the reality. And so it's not what you think, what you think, it's what everyone else thinks. What you've heard that today, it's what's everyone saying? Is that what your company is? Because I know we have companies, I know we have issues. I guarantee you we do. But when we acquire a company, and we've acquired 250 of them, I've been involved. We never look at numbers, ever. The first thing we look at, we have dinner with the person and the family. If it doesn't fit, we walk. If they're not staying, we walk. No reason to buy it. No reason to even talk about it. That's how serious it is. And then if we like them, yeah, we got to look at the numbers and see. But in general, I would tell you that's really important to evaluate someone's character is almost everything in a culture.
So thank you guys so much today. Can we get a round of applause for our great team up here with Duke, Donnie, Joshua, and Amber?